More conviction! Alright, so I just left the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. I was working all day at my movie theater that I run, and then I left and ran to another movie theater so I could see a movie I have been hearing about for a long, long time that I didn't think I would ever see, and it is Caligula. But Caligula, you say, Newt, you've talked about Caligula a million times, one of your favorite movies of all time. Yes, it is. But this is the Ultimate Edition. Yeah, so anybody who knows the story of Caligula, not the, historical, accurate version, the movie itself, the backstory is far more interesting than anything, that is on the screen. And I think it's the fable and the myth and the legend of it all is probably what adds to a lot of my love for this movie. Gore Vidal wrote the script. Tinto Brass directed the film. Bob Guccione, the head of Penthouse magazine, one of the richest men in America at the time, produced the film. He made the most expensive independent film of all time. Sir John Gielgud, Peter O'Toole, Helen Mirren, Malcolm McDowell, like all these huge British stage actors, these thespians, are in this film. And then Guccione took it away from the director, took it away from the writer, and added hardcore pornography to the movie and created this, like, I was explaining it to somebody earlier. I was like, if you took took a pile of money and then poured cocaine on it and then set it on fire, that's what that movie is, It's got a fucking beautiful score. It's decadent, it's opulent, it's over the top, it's an excessive fever dream wrapped in historical accuracy, and I fucking love it. It's one of those movies that I relish explaining it to people and the history behind it and all that. Turn my car on. Oh. So yeah, but years and years I've heard about this, this Ultimate Edition, the original version that was screened before all of the porn was added. And finally I saw that it was playing tonight at the Colonial Theater because it's getting a Blu-ray release. And no, you fucking knew I had to be here for that. There was nobody in there for quite a while. It was just me. Well into the opening of the movie. Right off the bat, I prefer the crazy porn version better, and not in a you're a fucking pervert kind of way. It's more in a the score is better. They replaced the score. They replaced a lot of musical cues. They replaced the opening title sequence. I prefer that stuff. But in this new version, there is more performance. There is more gravitas from McDowell and from Mirren. If this movie's, I've seen it a million times, but you forget how funny this movie is, and that's sick. But that petulant brat that Caligula is, and the madness that takes over because absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's far more of that. There's more time for those performances to breathe in this version. You're not as distracted by lesbian sex scenes and well-hung men on stilts. I'm sorry if that's something you really want, then you're not going to get it from this version. There is still an excessive amount of nudity. But what's missing is the manic nature of the original version. The original version was panned by everyone. Like, the director of Salon Kitty said that it was trash and that it was dangerous. That's saying something. That's high praise, as Nicolas Cage would say. they called it a moral holocaust and all these things, but it was a huge box office hit. You know, it outgrossed The Fog the weekend that it came out, and it led to Italian filmmakers making, you know, Messalina, and Joe D'Amato's the Caligula Untold, or even like led to things like the retitled version of Gestapo's Last Orgy was Caligula reincarnated as Hitler. So the Italians knew what they were doing. They got on that shit and cashed in as much as they could. And I appreciate that this version exists. I appreciate that I got to see it on the big screen, and I got to see, painstaking what Drafthouse Films was able to do in putting back together the original version of what Tito Brass and Gore Vidal had envisioned for this opulent, epic, historical film. The kind of movie that could only have been made in this time period, where a big porn producer goes, we're gonna make Gone with the Wind with pussy in it, and like that could never exist at any other time period other than the late 70s, early 80s, where you could get these huge actors and get them to be naked and insane in these movies. And I was talking to these guys as they were coming out of the movie. They were like, what did you think of it? And I was kind of going into my whole spiel about, my affinity for this movie. I have the poster framed in my apartment, they had never seen the original version, so I was kind of explaining to them this stuff, and I think they were a little taken aback by it. And I was like, okay, you've seen this version, this version still has a lot of nudity in it and some gore in it and stuff like that, but the other version is literally an act of madness, with the gore, with the pornography, with Peter O'Toole drunk off his fucking ass, covered in sores, just screaming, about the little fishes and all this kind of stuff. And this retained a lot of those elements, the royal brothel and the big machine that cuts heads off, the big fucking lawnmower coliseum. A lot of that stuff is there, but it's subdued. You don't get the same amount of excess, and I think that my draw to this is the excess, because there's something about that duality of these Shakespearean actors and this utter sleaze and gore and exploitation, but sleaze and gore and exploitation, but on these fucking massive, beautiful, spare no expense sets. It's the whole thing is like a fever dream, and that is something about that movie that's just like, it's insane. And it's always drawn me in, of like, the idea of the film, the producer, the subject matter, the idea of absolute power just corrupting absolutely. When things get as off the rails as Guccione's version of this, you get something that, maybe trash to some, but is art to others, and that's what's beautiful and weird about film and music and art in general. Like, it's that idea of everyone can look at something and see it completely. They all look at the exact same thing, but they all take their own experience away from it. And I look at it and I just say the pieces don't fit, and there's no reason why this movie should work, but for me it works. And and I really like this ultimate cut too. I'm gonna buy it, because I want to know more about the how this all came together. But in saying that, I do like the fucking crazier than a shithouse rat version that I saw the first time, that I have on VHS, that I have on DVD, that I have a laser disc of, that I have the poster of, because it's just like, it's one of those things where, like, most standard moviegoers, they'll see something, go, whoa, that was crazy, and then you show them something that I think is crazy, and they go, there's something wrong with you, I'm really happy that this finally happened. Again, I've been hearing about it for so long. There's a whole other version of this movie that screened once, and then it was taken away from the producers, and it was Frankensteined back into the version that I've known my entire life. And then to see this other version exists, and it's more, and it's still excessive. It's extremely excessive, but it's subdued to anyone who knows the other version. So it's interesting. It's cool to see that. And and it's also nice to see these alternate takes and longer form scenes, and the ability for Helen Mirren and for Malcolm McDowell to breathe within these characters. And it's camp. It's so fucking over the top, but with such gravitas that it's brilliant. It's literally brilliant. It's all the excess that makes it special to me and insane. That's my fresh out of the theater ranting about Caligula, the Ultimate Edition. Usually when you hear like the Ultimate Edition, it's like, some Marvel movie or something like this, and this couldn't be any farther from that. I'm gonna be thinking about this one for a while, and kind of weighing the things I didn't like that they added, and the against the things that I love, and the things that I think they made better. In some cases, there's a lot of acting choices and things that aren't cut as closely. Like I said, that allows scenes to breathe a little bit more and allows for the gravitas of it. Seeing it on the big screen too, just the depth of field and the colors, and are just so fucking beautiful and vibrant. Obviously Tito Brass was a master art house filmmaker, but I'd never seen this movie on the big screen before, and it was interesting to see this version on the big screen. It would have been interesting to see the X-rated version, because there were finally, when people did come in, everyone was much older, and I even some of like the there's dudes jacking off in this and all that kind of stuff in the movie, and all manner of fellatio and a baby's head crowning in a birthing scene. Even with that, people were like, you could tell that people were kind of squirming in their seats. It would have been interesting to see the X-rated version with a crowd and just watch how modern sensibilities would make people kind of squirm in their seats. Like, we have movies nowadays, like, modern mainstream horror movies that make motherfuckers grasp their pearls. Like, this movie would make fucking people's heads explode in the theater, It's like watching, I saw Cannibal Holocaust with a crowd, and like people were like visibly affected by it. And it's been a long time since I've seen a movie with a crowd where people are like repelled by what they see on the screen, and not like a Madam Web repelled by the screen. I don't know. I've talked about Caligula a lot in other videos. We could go into making his horse the head of the Praetorian Guard, and all the other insanity that the real Caligula did. But Malcolm McDowell is such a petulant child, pure fucking evil in this movie, but like it's funny, and you're attracted and repelled at the same time. And Helen Mirren is like one of the hottest women who's ever lived. This era, this and Excalibur, two of my favorite movies of all time, and she's just absolutely stunning in both of them. And that is Caligula, the ultimate cut. I recommend you go and you check out the original one. And if you get a chance, check this one out. I'd love to know what you think of the movie. I know it's Brad Jones, the Cinema Snob's favorite movie. I know when I had to pick him up from the train station to take him to this con for the company I used to work for, we talked about Caligula like a bunch of times on the drive, because I've been waiting to talk to him about it, because I don't know many people who love the movie as much as I do. But sick fucks, man. What are you gonna do? All right, so that is Caligula. I hope I gave you more conviction. All right, goodbye, my little fishies.